Guys, we've waited for the MCU Phase 4 movies to get here for over a year, and it's finally on its way. The arrival of Black Widow will walk hand in hand with the Disney Plus shows to bring us into a new Thanos-less era of Marvel villainy. So how do you follow a villain like Thanos? Apparently the Marvel strategy is throw literally every awesome villain they have at us. Not a bad strategy. If I were to ask all of you who the best Spider-Man movie villain was, you'd probably all have different answers because there are a lot of awesome Spider-Man villains. If you were to ask me who the best Spider-Man movie villain was, I'd tell you Doctor Octopus from Spider-Man 2. The humble Otto Octavius turns into a vicious monster after an experiment goes wrong and fuses him with his AI metal arms. Not only does Alfred Molina give one of the best all-time supervillain performances, but the film demonstrated just how epic superhero fight scenes could be. The train fight sequence between him and Tobey Maguire's Spidey is still one of my all-time favorite showdowns. So you can imagine that I'm pretty stoked that Molina's Doc Ock is somehow coming back to torment Tom Holland this time in Spider-Man No Way Home. I know he got a sun dropped on him before he sank into the bay.
It's only a spike! It'll soon stabilize!
But I also don't care. More Doc Ock, please. As far as Avengers villains go, it's really hard to top the likes of Loki, Ultron, and Thanos. Luckily for the MCU, they have yet to adapt one of the fiercest Avengers bad guys, Kang the Conqueror. In simple terms, Kang is a time-traveling megalomaniac who uses technology from the future to attack the past. In not-so-simple terms, he's at least 5 separate Marvel characters depending on what point in the timeline you're looking at. It's complicated. 10 years ago, a villain like Kang would have been crazy choice for the grounded MCU. But now that Marvel's fine with terms like time travel and multiverse,
somewhere in time.
Hot tub time machine.
Hot tub time machine.
The stage is set for Kang's big debut. While it was announced that Jonathan Majors would be playing Kang in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, it seems possible that his introduction may be coming sooner than we think. One of the early episodes of Loki displayed an image of the 3 timekeepers who rule the Time Variance Authority. If you look closely at the keeper in the middle, he bears a striking resemblance to Kang. Is it possible that Kang has already taken over the universe and that the Avengers will have to fight him across time? Knowing Kang, yes, it's very possible. If there's one villain I've been dying to see the MCU take on since Iron Man premiered in 2008, it's the one and only Doctor Doom. While Doom has technically been adapted for the big screen twice already, there really hasn't been a movie version that lives up to the villainous promise Doom provides. To provide my point, here's a comic panel where Doom pulls Thanos' entire skeleton out of his body. I think that sells Doctor Doom more than anything I could say. Knowing that a Fantastic Four movie will close at Phase 4, you just know that means Doctor Doom is on the way. Sure, the first film might have someone else like Annihilus as the main villain, but Victor will at least make a cameo that hints about his villainous turn in later movies. Whether he torments the Fantastic Four or just gives Thanos a smile in the end credits scene, Doom is coming. There's just something about Daniel Bruhl's Zemo that no matter how much we see of him, we always want some more. The original Civil War appearance of Zemo hinted at a criminal mastermind who could single-handedly manipulate the Avengers into attacking each other. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier showed that not only was he an evil genius, but he was also a baron with all the style of James Bond or Batman.
You've been rich?
I'm a baron's son. My family was royalty until your friends destroyed my country.
Not to mention his incredible dance moves. Look at him go! Perhaps the most interesting part of his second appearance was the mask he wore while jumping into a firefight at Madripoor. The show never explained the significance of this mask or why he wears it during violent showdowns, but if we know anything about Marvel by now, it's that any mystery or dangling plot thread is just an opportunity for a future project to pick up and run with. As popular as Zemo turned out to be, it's clear he will return and that he'll bring that mysterious purple mask with him. Now where's your sword and crown? The MCU isn't the only Marvel Cinematic Universe rolling out movies nowadays. After the massive success of Venom in 2018, a sequel was inevitable. Lo and behold, a new Venom movie's on the horizon with none other than Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy, aka Carnage. If you don't know anything about Cassidy, just imagine if the Joker had a brother, and that brother had access to a symbiote like Venom. So yeah, he's pretty terrifying. As of right now, the Sonyverse isn't connected to the MCU. Of course, there are a lot of reasons to think that the two universes are about to cross over in some big ways. The other big Sonyverse release, Morbius, will feature Adrian Toomes, the Vulture. We're not sure how the Spidey franchises will cross over in the next few years, but if Carnage does make his way to the MCU, it will likely take both Spidey and Venom to take him down. It's kinda strange to say that the Mandarin will be making his first appearance in Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings. In some ways, the Mandarin is the first supervillain who ever made their appearance known in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The MCU literally begins with Tony Stark being attacked by the Ten Rings organization. Since then, there've been several references to the mysterious Mandarin who was pulling the strings all along. We've even seen a fake version of him in the form of Iron Man 3's Trevor Slattery.
Don't hurt the face, I'm an actor.
And Aldrich Killian's proclamation that he was the real Mandarin. Now, well over a decade after he first attacked Stark, we'll finally see his true identity. Not only will we meet Wenwu, the real Mandarin, but we'll see his origin as well. His son, Shang-Chi, looks to be defying his father's wishes to join the Ten Rings. When all the fighting's over, I hope Wenwu's still left standing to terrorize the MCU for another decade to come. Ole, ole, ole. Oh, not that Mandarin? Okay. Spider-Man villains are all the rage in the MCU right now. Tom Holland looks to be taking on all the ghosts of Spider-Man's past. If he really is going to go through all the greatest hits, then he simply has to take on the villain that started it all, William Dafoe's Green Goblin. Rumors have been swirling that Osborn will be joining Doc Ock and Electro in the big Spider-Man free-for-all when No Way Home drops later this year. Even if Dafoe's version of the character isn't on his way, Osborn appearing in the MCU is an inevitability. There are several opportunities for Osborn to appear in the future projects. Whether we're talking about the Dark Avengers or him suiting up in full Goblin armor, Osborn is a natural threat to rise in a post-Thanos world. Just do us all a favor and don't give Gobby green Power Ranger armor this time. If you can cast someone like Dafoe who can make a perfectly terrifying Goblin face for free, why pay money to make a new one, huh? Rumors are that Namor the Submariner will be the primary villain of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. In the comics, Atlantis and Wakanda have been at odds many times. The worst of it came when Namor actually sent a giant wave of water through the entire country, devastating the population. It seems like we might see that horrifying event happen on the big screen when we finally get to return to Wakanda. Sin nombre actor Tenoch Huerta is rumored to be Marvel's King of Atlantis in 2022. Will he be the one responsible for T'Challa's demise and Shuri's ascent to the Wakandan throne? I guess we'll find out. Unfortunately, I think Rick and Morty may have just beat him to it. I don't know about you, but there was something awfully familiar about Rick's nemesis, Mr. Nimbus. When Namor does finally appear on the big screen for the first time, I sincerely hope there was a lot less pelvic thrusting than there was with Mr. Nimbus. I don't know if I need to see that on the 3D IMAX screen. Wanda Maximoff has been in the MCU since 2015, but the Scarlet Witch just arrived. WandaVision showed us that there's far more to Wanda than just an enhanced Hydra soldier turned Avenger. She's a powerful witch even by powerful witch standards. Agatha Harkness coined the term Scarlet Witch in the MCU as a mythical being who is supposedly more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. Wanda will be butting heads with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We still don't know if the pair will be teaming up or throwing it down. Judging from that more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme remark, it seems like Wanda may be the movie's villain. If she does take a turn to the dark side, that's bad news for pretty much anyone in her way. She has the ability to cast spells instinctively without the need for incantation. Now that she's been studying the Darkhold, it's likely that she's the most powerful magic user who's ever lived. In the comics, this power was used to unravel all of existence and wipe most mutants out. Who knows, in the movies, it might bring the mutants in instead. While Captain America and Iron Man have finished up their time avenging, it's good to know that we have at least one more adventure with Thor. Hemsworth will be teaming up with Taika Waititi one more time to bring us Thor: Love and Thunder. While the headline for that film is Natalie Portman becoming the mighty Thor, the villain of the movie is equally impressive. Batman himself, Christian Bale, will be returning to the superhero genre, but not as a hero this time. Instead, he'll be playing one of the newest and most impressive Thor villains, Gorr the God Butcher. If you couldn't tell by his name, Gorr is an alien who hates gods but loves to butcher them. It's all right there in the name. Gorr wields a powerful weapon known as the Necro Sword, which has deep ties to not only Thor's story, but to Venom's as well. Gorr could prove not only to be the best Thor villain yet, but a link to the Sonyverse as well. Knowing Christian Bale like I do, they probably won't need to use CGI to build Gorr's face. He's likely using method acting and some plastic surgery to literally become Gorr. You gotta give it to Christian Bale, he really commits. Jamie Foxx was a big deal in 2014. I mean, Fox is still a big deal, but just 2 years after his legendary turn in Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, his stock was at an all-time high. So him signing on to play the main villain in Amazing Spider-Man 2 seemed like a win-win for both him and the new Spidey franchise. Unfortunately, the movie tried to jam 2 other villains into the film, which hurt Fox's Electro considerably. While the Times Square fight is often referred to as a highlight of the film, the fact is the final showdown with Spider-Man was only the prelude to the movie's climax, which made Electro seem like a second-string villain. The MCU looks to be rectifying this by giving Electro another chance to torture Spider-Man yet again, just not the same Spider-Man. If things work out better this time, we may get to see Fox team up with the other all-star Spidey villains in that Sinister Six movie Sony's been wanting to make since Amazing Spider-Man 2. It seems like we've been waiting for Black Widow forever. There's one mystery that's been hanging over the film since the first trailer drop. The mysterious villain, known by his call sign Taskmaster, is a master assassin who studied the fighting techniques of the best warriors in the MCU. He has a little Black Panther, a little Captain America, a little Hawkeye, and probably a lot of everyone in between. We know all that about him, but we still don't know who's really behind the mask, or who's playing him. Marvel's well known for changing their villains around, so who knows who the new master of the Red Room truly is? Well, we'll know before too much longer. Here's to hoping that Taskmaster is worth the wait and he'll survive the film to fight another day. We've seen John Walker get recruited by Valentina Allegra de Fontaine to form her own superhero team for some nefarious purpose. Rumor is that Val's first appearance was supposed to be in 2020's Black Widow. Could Val be enlisting Taskmaster into the same team as the new US agent? The biggest problem with following Thanos is that he was infinitely powerful. I mean, how do you top the guy who was able to take out half of all life in the universe with the snap of his finger? Well, it turns out that the infinitely powerful isn't as infinite as we thought. Loki showed us that there are forces in the MCU that dwarf even what the Infinity Gauntlet brings to the table. In fact, the Time Variance Authority is so unbelievably powerful that low-level staff members use Infinity Stones as paperweights. Just ask this guy.
We actually got a lot of those. Yeah, some of the guys use them as paperweights.
While someone like Owen Wilson's Mobius isn't all that threatening, the Timekeepers above him certainly are. We know that they're pruning the timeline so that it meets their ends, whatever that may be. If the Timekeepers or the TVA prove to be the villains everyone thinks they are, the Avengers may be using that endgame technology to have a full-on battle through time itself. Yep, sign me up for that. Can I get some love for Emil Blonsky? The epic villain who had the strength and will to take on the Hulk as a lowly human was promptly shelved after the Incredible Hulk ended. Just like Ed Norton. Ha! Luckily, Blonsky will be back at last to have his revenge. Only this time he might find more Hulks than he knows what to do with. 2022 will introduce us to the newest Green Rage machine in town. Orphan Black's Tatiana Maslany is on board to play Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk. Now that Blonsky's back for another round as the Abomination, it seems likely we'll get another epic throwdown with Hulk that obliterates an entire city block. Seeing as Hulk's arm was in a sling after using the Iron Gauntlet last time we saw him, round 2 might not go as well for him. Professor Hulk may need She-Hulk to tag in to take the Abomination down. Hopefully She-Hulk proves to be a reintroduction to Abomination rather than another case of him getting shelved away for good. Blonsky has a reputation of one of Marvel's greatest villains, and that's just after one movie. Imagine what he could do if they gave him the spotlight. Just like Ed Norton. Ooh, too soon? James Gunn had no idea just what he started when he dropped Adam Warlock's Cocoon in the Collector's Collection when Quill and the gang visited in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Since then, fans have been desperate to see one of Marvel's best cosmic heroes in the MCU. Then Volume 2 rolled around with good news and bad news. While Adam Warlock didn't make his debut in the film, his appearance was directly set up. Designed to be the perfect member of the Sovereign, Aisha created him with the intent to get revenge on those pesky Guardians. I bet that Adam would not only appear in Volume 3, played by a well-known actor, but he'll serve as the movie's main villain. While Adam Warlock is destined to become a superhero, there's an evil version of the character known as Magus, who could easily serve as a threat for years to come. Knowing that they're alternate versions of Loki and Kang the Conqueror in Marvel Phase 4, Magus really isn't that big of a swing. Knowing that She-Hulk will be taking on Abomination is enough to make me want to watch her Disney Plus series. But Kevin Feige put in another cherry on top of an already appetizing sundae. The Good Place's Jamila Jamil will be playing She-Hulk's arch-nemesis Titania. She's a formidable hand-to-hand combatant who's proven herself more than a match for Jennifer Walters. Knowing the MCU though, I would expect a completely new origin story for the character likely molded to fit Jamil's talent. Every single trailer for Captain Marvel had us fooled. They led us to believe that the green shape-shifting Skrulls were the film's main antagonists. Instead, they ended up as the movie's sympathetic alien race. Carol Danvers ended up taking up their cause and joining them in space. Well, it turns out that while we weren't right about the Skrulls the first time, we were right about them in the long run. Phase 4 will see Nick Fury take the spotlight in his own Disney Plus series, Secret Invasion. We don't know most of the plot details so far, but the comic that's named after is about invasion the Skrulls initiated years earlier to infiltrate various places of power in the Marvel Universe. Chances are that one of the Marvel characters we trust right now is secretly a Skrull sleeper agent. My money's on Sharon Carter. If you were leading a Skrull invasion, it'd be helpful to have all of Madripoor in your back pocket. Plus that twist at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I don't buy it. I could try to tell you just how big of a deal it is that Moon Knight is on the way, but instead I'll show you how Oscar Isaac is training to play Mark Spector. I wouldn't want to be the bad guy facing that fury. Moon Knight's big threat is the villain known as Raoul Bushman. He was the one who betrayed Spectre and led him to becoming the Moon Knight in the first place. Little did he know that this would begin a rivalry that would span decades. If we see their showdown on Disney+, expect it to be a lot less like Captain America fighting a mercenary and more like Netflix's Punisher beating someone to a pulp. It looks like Isaac is well prepared. And to think all of these characters are going to appear and we still have the X-Men villains on the way. I need more Magneto. More, please!